Marc Cohodes joins us now from San Francisco. Great to see you, sir. Thanks for doing this. What is it about this market behind me now that makes you think it's a house of cards set to collapse?
Well, basically, housing is shelter. And in Vancouver, the housing market has been influenced lately and in the past by what I would call money laundering coming in from China. You're only allowed to really take out $50,000, and it's been written about, shown, proven that the rapid increase in house prices has mainly come from money coming from China into Vancouver, really by the criminal element. So I think that's very unsafe, unstable, and unwise for policymakers to let this happen.
I mean, you've been betting against this housing market long before a lot of those stories had emerged, though. What were the foundations of Canadian and specifically Vancouver, the housing market here, were those foundations shaky before any of that came out?
Well, to be clear, I'm short Home Capital Group, which trades in Toronto, symbol HCG. I've been short that stock since the fall of 2014. The stock was in the mid-50s. It's now in the mid-20s, and housing has boomed in Toronto. HomeCap has disclosed approximately $2 billion of mortgage origination fraud since I've been short, and now they're under investigation by the OSC. I'm also short Equitable Group. My opinion on Vancouver, I have no skin in the game in Vancouver. There was a Harvard Business School case written about me way back when on the housing bubble in the States. And I said at the end of that case, if I ever see something like this again, I want to speak out, because I don't like seeing people hurt by other people's greed and criminal actions, which is exactly what's going on in Vancouver. I don't like it one bit. The local politicians are being bought and paid for by the real estate industry, and someone needs to speak out and call this for what it is. It's a charade and it's embarrassment, and it's been going on for a while. And frankly, since I spoke out about it a little bit last spring and summer, there have been some measures that the government decided to take, which has cooled it a bit, which is good to see.
Well, I'm interested on your take on that this sort of these policy interventions that I've been calling an experiment today, because we don't know what impact they have had, and we still don't know what impact they will have in the long term on the market. What do you make of that? Of the foreign buyers tax and the vacancy tax in particular, and do you think they have the potential to dramatically cool a market that has, as we all know, just been red hot for years now?
Well, speaking of red hot, I mean, I would essentially call it pissing on a house fire. I mean, it's something, but it's not enough. What needs to happen is the Canadian government, especially BC and Christy Clark, need to enforce the rules and the laws of the land. When illicit criminal money comes in, it needs to be stopped. Instead of being paid off by the real estate lobby, if you will, people need to look into why all these houses in Vancouver are vacant. Why a college student who, when asked what her father does for a living, can't answer, how can this person buy a $36 million house? When I walk Vancouver at prime time, half these places are vacant. Most of, it's like a ghost town. You can't live and thrive in a town where housing is treated like a penny stock on the Vancouver Stock Exchange from days gone by. Housing is used as a store of wealth from money laundering Chinese, and that's bad. That's bad for the economy. It's bad for business. It's no way to run a railroad. And when that stops, housing will become affordable for the working class of Vancouver. I mean, the average family makes $80,000 to $90,000 a year. I'd put a 5 multiplier on that, and affordability is somewhere around $500,000. If the median price is $1 million, it's overpriced by a factor of 2, and that needs to change, or people will simply move out because they can't afford it. So therein lies the rub.
You're a short Home Cap Group in Toronto. You obviously have some pretty strong feelings about what's happening here. How does one bet against the market in Vancouver, or is there a way to sort of replicate what you've been able to do in Toronto and in previous housing crashes before and speculation before to what's happening here in Vancouver?
Well, Home Cap has specific problems to themselves. They're poorly managed. They have no controls or systems. I'm not short any of the big legitimate banks. I don't think HomeCap is a well-run, well-managed operation. So that's kind of a one-off. Vancouver, there's no real way to short Vancouver. If I lived in Vancouver and owned a house, I would sell it and I would rent. And I'm just, it sort of tears me up a bit because I maybe have, I don't know, 3-4 dozen friends who live there. Some of them make an awful lot of money, and no one can afford to live there, and everyone's contemplating on moving out. So there's no real way to short Vancouver other than sell your place, rent, and or move, because it's a shame what's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to be very bad.